What's the scariest thing you've discovered in a roommate's locked room? My new roommate talked to crying voices behind a locked door. I only moved in with Wes because I was desperate. After my dad died, I couldn't stand living in my family house anymore, and Wes's roommate wanted ad said he was quiet and respectful. But I noticed strange things about him from the second I moved in. Like when he shook my hand at our first meeting, studied me, and said, "I guess you must be fine with living with ghosts." Okay then. He had a keypad lock on his bedroom door and wore noise-canceling headphones at the dinner table. My sister came over for a hot minute, and after one interaction with him in which Wes told her she has the aura of a wounded mermaid drowning on land, she said he seemed like the kind of guy who keeps a collection of hair from women he's buried in state parks. There was something so unsettling about the way he would stare at you without blinking, like he was trying to burrow into your soul. One time I was using a label maker, and he looked at me funny, so I asked if he wanted to borrow it. He said, "You should never put your own name on objects, because ownership can never be your identity." All right then. Then some nights, I started hearing low murmurs through the wall, oftentimes with crying. Usually it sounded like Wes, but sometimes I was sure it was someone else entirely. But Wes never had anyone over. The first time I brought a friend over, he heard it too, and made a joke about Wes keeping women in a cage. I laughed, but not really. Then came the night I needed the fuse box, which was in Wes's room. I knocked. He opened the door exactly 2 inches, just enough to show one eye, and said, "Stay in darkness for now." Behind him, I heard soft sobbing. I decided enough was enough. I was desperately looking for somewhere else to live, but I had no leads, and none of my friends were taking me seriously when I said I didn't feel safe. I started staying late at work just to avoid being home. But the night that I was seriously considering just moving back into my parents' house, even though the thought of seeing all my dad's stuff without him made me want to throw up, I heard his voice through the walls again. But this time I had my door open and I could make out some words. "You're not alone. You're not broken. This isn't the end of your story." Then, quieter. "I'll stay on the line until you feel safe again." I tiptoed to the hallway and pressed my ear to his door. From there, I could make out more. "Your husband didn't die because of you. That was never your fault. Say it with me, even if you don't believe it yet." I tried to sneak back to bed, but I completely collided with the hallway lamp and made a ridiculous amount of noise, so obviously Wes heard me. He excused himself to whoever he was talking to and came outside. I was worried he'd be mad at me for eavesdropping, and still kind of worried that Wes's version of mad involved zip ties and chainsaw, but he just said, "You deserve to know what you've been living next to." Then he invited me to sit. Wes explained that he runs an anonymous grief support network, voice only, with no names or cameras, and it's completely free of charge. Some people call in live, and others request recorded messages to play when they're spiraling. "I try to be a soft place to land," he said, "especially for people who have no one else." I asked about the crying. He said, "Most of them have never told anyone what happened, so they cry. I just stay." He offered to let me listen to the orientation recording, the only one that includes his story. I agreed. And then before I knew it, I was another one of Wes's crying people. Here's what happened to him. Years before we met, his sister had died in a hospital hallway alone while she was waiting for a psych consult. Her body was there cold for 5 Horus before anyone noticed. His parents never talked about it again. "Everyone's grief has a voice," he said in the tape. Mine sounded like my sister, asking why no one came. He patiently handed me a tissue and then told me that he knows he's a weird dude whose approach isn't for everyone. He also knows that when someone does click with him, it's life-changing for both of them. As soon as he went back to his room that night, I deleted the texts where I called him a future Netflix documentary. And after that, I stopped joking with my friends about his taxidermy energy or scouring Craigslist for new places to live. Instead, I asked him if he needed help with scheduling, and eventually, he trained me on onboarding calls. 6 months later, I started my own grief circle for men who never got the chance to cry when their fathers died. I didn't even know I was still carrying that trauma around until I met Wes, and now I make something good come out of it.